All right, real quick, just going to run over JavaScript generators, how generators work, and then get into how generators can make your promise workflow in JavaScript a lot easier. So the first thing you'll see right here is we have a function that's got an asterisk after it. An asterisk kind of denotes a function as being a generator. So then it kind of follows the normal function flow. So you have your function name, your parentheses for your arguments, and then your function body. So what generators allow you to do is kind of create what you might call a pausable function. So anytime a generator runs across a yield keyword, it's going to pause and then return whatever follows the word or the keyword yield. So in this case, every time we run the next function, which is a function on a generator, it'll run through and give us each of the values we have specified here. So it sounds kind of confusing, but I think a really quick example would make it a lot easier to understand. So down here we're assigning my generator function to a gen variable, and then we're going to console log gen.next. So .next is going to call or look for the next keyword and then run that, and then .value will just return the value that yield is referencing in theory. So if I open up Chrome and refresh the page, notice we're on generators.html now, we get 1. If we come down and we run gen, which is what we assigned our generator to, .next.value, we should get the number 2. And then if we do it again, we'll get the number 3. And then finally, we'll get undefined because we only have 3 values defined. And by the time we reach that, the generator has been closed or exited. So how do you know if a generator has been exited? So I'm going to go ahead and refresh the page. And we're back at 1. So if we just do gen.next without the value and run that, you'll see we get an object back, which has the value and the done. Do it again. Value 3, done is false. We run it one more time, value is undefined, but done is true. So at any point in time, you should be able to run gen.next.done. And if done is true, you'll know that you've ran into the end of your generator. So how do generators make asynchronous functions easier? So if we look at this package called Bluebird, what this allows you to do is run what's called it is a lot more than this, but run a promise coroutine, which basically allows you to use a generator to generate your callbacks or your promises for you. So if we run into our code here quick, oops, there we go, and delete this, I'm going to call this function asterisk for generator get addresses. Make a variable 1 called address1. I'm doing this wrong. I'm sorry, I steered you down the wrong path there. Let's go ahead and delete this. Just make a variable called get addresses. And that's going to be equal to a promise dot coroutine, which is going to take a function that's a promise. And then, so what does that do? So like I said earlier, we're including Bluebird from CDN.js, which gives promise a prototype of coroutine, which is going to take a function that's a generator and then allow us to do some pretty nifty things. So If you remember back in earlier videos, if you watched it, I'll go back to promises too quick. We had to do something like this where we had to call the URL and do .then to actually resolve the promise, get the response back out of it, and then kind of chain on thens and catches to allow us to continue to resolve our promises. What a generator is going to allow us to do is something pretty nifty. I'm going to do var address1 is equal to $.get API URL. I'm going to copy this a couple times. Address 2, address 3. And this is the API URL 2 and API URL 3. So not a lot of that looks different right now from what we had back here. It's actually pretty much the exact same thing. What we're going to do differently here is in front of this, we're going to put in the word yield. And what that's actually going to do for us, so now instead of having to call then, this is actually going to wait for this promise to resolve and then return that value to this variable. So watch this, this is going to be pretty neat. I'm going to console.log address1, console log address2, and console log address3. And then I'm just going to run get address. I'm going to save that. Then I'm going to run to my browser here and refresh. Get address is not defined. I must have mistyped something there. I sure did. All right. Copy and paste. Refresh the browser. And look at that. We get object. We get everything we would expect back in an asynchronous manner, but our code looks very synchronous and very clean. How cool is that?